Welcome back to part 3 of the series. Today we are diving straight into the historic 2001 Jamaica U20 team and their incredible qualification journey. Now, before they could even think about reaching the final round of Concacaf tournament, the young boys had to navigate a tricky Caribbean pre-qualification group consisting of Dominica, Grenada, and Cayman Islands. And honestly, they completely dismantled the competition. In the first game, Jamaica cruised to a dominant 5-0 win over Cayman Islands. They kept the momentum rolling in the second match, looking down a clean 2-0 victory against Dominica. And the final group game, they put on another clinic, walking away with a smooth 4-0 win against Grenada to top the group. That flawless run sent Jamaica straight into the final round of the Caribbean qualifying, where the stakes got a lot higher. They were placed in a group with Dominican Republic, Suriname, and regional rivals Cuba. The opening match was a real dogfight with a razor gritty 1-0 victory over Dominican Republic, just to get the 3 points on the board. But in the second game, the attack completely exploded. Jamaica put up a dominant masterclass, smashing 6-1 against Suriname in a blowout. That set up a massive finale against Cuba. The match was an absolute tactical gridlock from start to finish, ending in a 10-0 draw. When the group wrapped up, both Jamaica and Cuba were locked at the top of the group with 7 points each. But because Jamaica had scored 7 goals and conceded only one, while Cuba scored 5 and only conceded one, Jamaica officially won the Caribbean zone on goal difference. It was a massive statement, and it meant Jamaica had officially punched their ticket to the main 2001 U20 tournament, joining the Central American powerhouses of Costa Rica, Honduras, and Guatemala. The final round of the 2001 CONCACAF U20 Championship was split between two host locations, Canada and Trinidad and Tobago. Jamaica was placed in Group B, which was hosted up north in Canada, meaning they had to battle it out on enemy territory against Canada, Mexico, and Honduras. And to give you some context on just how stacked this group was, we need to look at the historical pedigree of these teams. Mexico was the undisputed heavy favorite. They had qualified for a staggering 9 out of the last 12 U20 World Cups, with their best performance being a second place finish back in 1977. In fact, their most recent run in 1999 saw them make it all the way to the quarterfinals, where they were eliminated 2-0 by the eventual silver medalist, Japan. Then you had the host, Canada, who had made it to 4 of the last 12 tournaments. Their most recent appearance was in 1997, where they made it out of the group stage before suffering a round of 16 exit against Spain. Honduras was no pushover either, making 3 of the last 12 tournaments, including a run in 1999, where they unfortunately went completely winless. And then you have Jamaica, the definitive underdog, who had never once had the opportunity to compete on the global U20 stage. The absolute closest the Reggae Boys had ever come was 5 years prior in 1996 U20 tournament. Back then, they had just fallen short in the Premier League qualifying stage, missing out on the final group to Costa Rica and Guatemala. Costa Rica ultimately went on to top the group and booked their ticket to play in Malaysia 1997. So on paper, Jamaica was looking at a mountain to climb. They were facing regional giants with decades of World Cup experience, playing in freezing Canadian condition. But as we've seen this generation, they didn't care about history. The opening match of the final round kicked off on February 28, 2001, and Jamaica was thrown straight into the deep end against Mexico. But the U20 team shocked the region, digging deep to grind out a massive 1-1 draw. In the other group fixture, Canada took care of business against Honduras, walking away with a narrow 1-0 victory. On match day 2, Jamaica kept the momentum rolling by pushing past Honduras in a gritty 2-1 win. But the real shockwave of the night happened in the other fixture on the exact same day. Canada pulled off a massive upset, shocking the tournament favorites Mexico with a tight 1-0 scoreline. Future Canadian star Julian de Guzman was the lone scorer, scoring his second match winner of the entire tournament. That set up a wild, high-stake final match day. Mexico handled their business early, defeating Honduras 2-0. Mexico's entire survival now rested on Canada. They desperately needed Canada to beat Jamaica just to guarantee their own U20 World Cup qualification, but Jamaica refused to break. Ultimately, the high-pressure match between Jamaica and Canada ended in a nerve-wracking 0-0 draw. That single point completely crushed Mexico's hope of playing in the U20 World Cup, while simultaneously helping Jamaica achieve the unthinkable. For the first time in our national history, the Reggae Boys had officially qualified for the U20 World Cup. Now, following the performance in Canada, I tried to see if I could find any record of international friendlies leading up to the main event later that summer in June of 2001, but I couldn't find it. The trail went completely cold. So, as they packed their bags for the U20 World Cup in Argentina, Jamaica was thrown into a gauntlet. They were placed in Group A alongside Egypt, Finland, and the hosts themselves, Argentina. But when you look at the squad list, you can see the backbone of the team was built on continuity. A core group of players made the massive upward jump from the 1999 U17 squad straight into the U20 squad, and these players were Sheldon Baptiste, Alex Thomas, Shane Stevens, Sean Fraser, Keith Kelly, Craig Gordon, and goalkeeper Allien Whittaker. The undisputed star of the team was still Keith Kelly. His performance after the U17 World Cup had caught the eyes of global scouts, earning him a dream contract with PSG's youth and B teams over in France. But this tournament also paved the way for players who were originally overlooked back in 1999. The biggest breakout name was Glenmore High School standout Omar Daley. Daley's journey to the top was a rocky one. Several local clubs originally rejected him, forcing him to play for a smaller side called Value PFC just to get noticed. But his raw talent couldn't be ignored for long. Hazard United, the club that would later become Homer United, recognized his potential and signed him to a pro contract at 19 years old in 2000. That explosive 2000-2001 domestic season skyrocketed his career, earning him a dual call-up to both the U20 national team and the senior national team. This roster shift also highlighted a massive evolution in Jamaica's club pipeline. While Real Mona FC completely dominated the 1999 U17 squad, they had absolutely zero representation on the 2001 squad. Rumona was legendary for youth development, but because their senior team played in lower divisions, their top stars naturally outgrew the setup. By 2001, Hazard United had become the absolute powerhouse of the national program. They completely dominated the squad list with five key players leading the charge: Allien Whittaker, Woolery Wolf, Omar Daley, Shavar Thomas, and Sheldon Baptiste. The rest of the 1999 crew had scattered all over the map. Alex Thomas was now playing soccer in the United States for Loomis Chafer School. The late, great Shane Stevens had moved on to represent Arnett Gardens. The remaining U17 players from the Real Mona Academy simply didn't make this cut this time around. Meanwhile, Sean Fraser was still holding down things at Harborview, just like he did back in 1999. Sheldon Baptiste, who was playing for Galaxy FC, during the U17 cycle, had officially completed his move to join Hazard United setup. Craig Gordon remained loyal to Reno FC. Allien Whittaker was still with Hazard United, notably being the only player on the core list who wasn't bought out by them, since he had been a Hazard player from the very start. Then you had Kari Stevensons, another massive talent who was playing his football up in the States like Alex Thomas. Stevensons was actually a product of the Real Mona Academy as well, but he missed out on the 1999 squad. By 2001, he was starring for Williams College in NCAA Division III, eventually leading his team to a historic national title that very same year. The talent was there, the players were maturing, and the club infrastructure back on the island was finally stepping up. But now it's time for the ultimate test of their lives. It was time for the group stage in Argentina. To understand the absolute mountain Jamaica had to climb, we need to look at the sheer caliber of opponents in Group A. First up were the hosts, Argentina. They already were three-time champions of this competition, tied with Brazil for the most in U20 history. They had won two out of the last three World Cups in 1995 and 1997, and after getting shocked 4-1 by Mexico in the round of 16 back in 1999, they were out for absolute blood on home soil. This squad was stacked with future global stars like Willie Caballero, Colicini, and Maxi Rodriguez. But the undisputed crown jewel of Argentina was a wonder kid named Javier Saviola. He was being hailed as the next Maradona and had even won South American Footballer of the Year in 1999, beating out legendary Juan Roman Raquelme. He later signed for Barcelona, and it was well documented that a young Lionel Messi used to look up to him when Messi was still coming through La Masia. While Javier himself was totally amazed by Messi's ability at that age, Saviola's senior career never quite lived up to the astronomical hype, but of course, Messi went on from being the next Maradona to the first Messi. Next was Egypt, who were rapidly becoming the absolute top dogs of African football. They brought a squad featuring Mohamed Shaki, who would later anchor Egypt's legendary senior golden generation in the 2000s. But Egypt's true star was their explosive, physical, dominant 6'2" wonder kid, Mohamed El Yamani. He had moved to Belgium at just 16 years old in 1998, and global giants like Juventus and Bayern Munich were aggressively chasing his signature. The Juventus deal was practically done, but just a week after this tournament ended, disaster struck. El Yamani was involved in a horrific car accident after a tire burst on the highway. He thankfully survived, but the injuries completely stole his explosive speed and physical dominance. The Juventus move collapsed and his career tragically never recovered. Then you had Finland, anchored by a trio of elite talents like Micah, Daniel, and Michael Forsell. Daniel was on Liverpool's books at the time, but he struggled to crack their first team, and his career plateaued. Micah was the most successful of the three domestically. Later moved to the Netherlands, where he racked up hundreds of appearances and won multiple league titles. But the marquee name was Finland was Michael Forsell. He was a Chelsea player at the time, and during the 03-04 season, he went on loan to Birmingham and hammered in 17 goals. Sadly, a brutal knee injury in 2004, right at the start of Roman Abramovich's era, completely derailed his Chelsea career, and another injury in 2006 ensured that he would never reach those peaks again. Even so, he's still remembered as an all-time legend in Finnish football. And finally, you had Jamaica. The international media was completely intrigued by the untapped potential of Caribbean football, and they completely fawned over our very own Keith Kelly. Because he was a Jamaican who had successfully signed for PSG's youth and B teams, the hype was real. In fact, FourFourTwo magazine official list of 100 best young players in 2001 ranked Kelly right at number 89 in the entire world. Sadly, just like the other stars in this group, Kelly's career was ultimately derailed by severe ankle injuries that permanently sapped his blister in place. When you look back at it, three out of the four main wonder kids in the group, Elia Hamani, Kelly, and Forsell, never reached their massive expectation, making them some of the biggest what-ifs in this tournament's history. Javier, on the other hand, easily had the most successful career of the four, but as football evolved in the 2000s, his position as second striker became completely obsolete. Teams stopped using two-striker system entirely and started demanding heavy, intense defensive pressing from their forwards, which completely crowded him out of the modern game. But back in June of 2001, the hype was alive and the stadium lights were on and the stage was officially set. Let's get straight into the matches. Now, thanks to the archives over at DFilm Argentina, I was actually able to track down rare match footage for all our games. So by combining official FIFA technical report with the video clips I found, let's break down the match day one by one. On June 17, 2001, we played against Egypt. Looking at the game as a whole, from the video footage I can find, Egypt completely dominated the match. And honestly, they had to be incredibly disappointed to walk away without a win. Early on, Egypt received an indirect free kick inside our box. They took the shot, and looking closely at the footage, you can definitely argue that a Jamaican player committed a slight handball, which should have given Egypt a penalty. On top of that, it kind of looks like the ball might have actually crossed over the goal line before it was cleared, but the low quality of the video just doesn't do it justice. So, for the viewers watching at home, what do you believe? Was there a hidden penalty there? And did Egypt's ball actually cross the line? Let me know. Later on in the half, Sheldon Baptiste made a really careless challenge inside the box, officially giving Egypt a penalty. Their number 16, Gamal Hamza, had the golden opportunity to put them ahead, but he completely missed the target, sending this penalty attempt wide of the post. After surviving all the pressure, Jamaica finally got the perfect chance to steal the game. Craig Gordon made a beautiful slashing pass across the box right to Christopher Nicholas. Nicholas completely missed the ball, but if he had just connected, it would have been a totally wide open net. Now, doing some deep freeze frame analysis, it looks like Nicholas might have actually run offside before the pass even came in. So, for everyone watching this right now, look at the line and let me know if you think he was offside. But after watching the video over and over, I noticed that a whistle was blown immediately after Nicholas missed a shot, so his big blunder, I could say, is probably forgiven, I guess, because the play was dead anyways. To end the drama, our goalkeeper, Allien Whittaker, pulled off a heroic double save close to the final whistle. The Egyptian player actually started celebrating because they thought they scored on the rebound, but the referee quickly called it offside. Ultimately, this was a highly disappointing result for Egypt, but for Jamaica, played in their first ever U20 World Cup match, it was a historic night that gave the country its first ever point on the global stage. Match Day 2 kicked off on June 20, 2001 against Finland. Both teams walked onto the pitch desperately looking to secure their very first victory of the tournament, especially since Finland had previously dropped their opening match 2-0 to the host Argentina. Now, analyzing the rare video footage from this game, tragedy struck for the young boys right at the death. In the 87th minute, Daniel Hoyland whipped a dangerous cross deep into our penalty box. Micah timed his run perfectly, meeting the ball with a spectacular volley that flew straight into the top corner past a helpless Whittaker. This was Finland's first ever goal in the Youth World Cup. According to the official FIFA technical report, this game itself was completely evenly matched between both sides, but ultimately, Finland's patient, disciplined style of play was the defining difference maker on the night. With this loss for Jamaica, any realistic hopes the young boys had of qualifying for the second round were officially put to rest after this 1-0 defeat. This dream of the knockout stage was dead, leaving us with one final monumental pride match against the Giants themselves, Argentina. On to match day 3 on June 23, 2001 against the host Argentina. Argentina had already qualified for the next round after a 2-0 victory versus Finland and a massive 7-1 blowout against Egypt, where Javier Saviola was their top scorer after scoring a hat-trick. Now Jamaica, like Egypt, did in fact still have a fighting chance, but after that 7-1 victory for Argentina and Jamaica's 1-0 loss to Finland, it was more likely that the second place spot was going to be decided between the Egypt and Finland game. Going into the match, early in the game, Argentina had a corner. Jamaica had the first touch when the corner was taken, but a poor clearance gave the ball right back to Argentina's D'Alessandro. He whipped the ball back into the box to Colaccini, who scored from a header in the third minute of the game. About 4 minutes later, Argentina went down the left flank. A Jamaican player did get the ball first, but a poor pass gave the ball right back to Argentina, where D'Alessandro played a 1-2 combo with Saviola at the top of the box. Then a beautiful time run by D'Alessandro to beat the offside trap gave Argentina a clear goal-scoring chance, but Whittaker made the save, but the rebound went directly to Javier Saviola, who headed it back of the net. That made the score 2-0 just 7 minutes into the match. 7 minutes later, a ball was played down to Rosales, who ran down the right flank and then crossed the ball to Herrera, who made it 3-0 14 minutes into the game. Later on in the match, there was a highlight that did show Damian Williams of Jamaica giving away a potential penalty, but it wasn't given, and the commentator was heard saying no era penal. So, give me your opinions on what you think of this potential penalty, if it was a penalty or it wasn't a penalty. But let's fast forward to the 38th minute. Again, Jamaica tried to play out from the back, but not knowing how to deal with the press caused the Jamaican to play a forward pass too far ahead of his teammate, where Argentina got the interception. Saviola received the ball in the box where he had three Jamaican players on him, and he assisted and opened Herrera for the second goal of the match, making it 4-0. Now, this next part wasn't shown in the highlights I was able to find, but according to data on Transfer Market, Omar Daley had received a yellow card in the 43rd minute and then a second yellow in the 45th minute. This meant Jamaica were down to 10 men for the remainder of the game. Fast forward to the second half, where in the 78th minute, second half sub Fabian Blake played it to the other sub Fabian Dawkins. Dawkins dribbled the ball past the Argentina backline and took a shot right at Lux, where it deflected in. This marked Jamaica's first ever goal in a Youth World Cup tournament. Even though the game was out of reach, and Jamaica's tournament was basically over with this 4-1 scoreline. Of course, this was a monumental moment for the Jamaican national team. All of Dawkins' teammates ran over to him to celebrate, while he was running back to his own half, with head coach Dunswell even giving him a high five. 8 minutes later, Jamaica gave away a penalty. Alex Thomas had received a yellow card. After the review, it was the goal scorer Dawkins, whose studs had clipped D'Alessandro's ankle, and Shavar Thomas came in with a slight stump afterwards. It was a correct decision by the referee to give a penalty. I assume Thomas received a yellow card for arguing with the referee about the call. Herrera was already subbed out by then, so he couldn't get his hat trick. So Javier Saviola, who was battling for the Golden Boot, took the penalty. Of course, Saviola converted the penalty, making it 5-1, and this was Saviola's second of the night and fifth of the tournament. Saviola and D'Alessandro had an absolute masterclass performance. Saviola walked away with 2 goals and 1 assist, while D'Alessandro racked up 1 assist, 1 rebound assist, and 1 penalty won in this matchup versus Jamaica. If you want to know what happened for the rest of the tournament, the follow-up was absolutely wild. In our group, Egypt later went on to beat Finland 2-1, meaning Egypt clinched their ticket to the knockout stages. From there, the definitive dark horses of the entire tournament went on to beat Ghana and Egypt. In the quarterfinals, Ghana pulled off the impossible, defeating Brazil 2-1 in extra time through a dramatic golden goal by John Menza. Just think about the caliber of that Brazil team. It featured a young Kaká who won the Senior World Cup in the next Euro tournament, Maicon, the future treble winner with Inter Milan, Adriano, who finished as the tournament's Golden Boot runner-up with 6 goals, and went on to be a multiple-time league winner with Inter Milan, and also was even a part of the U17 team in 1999 that won the World Cup, and Julio Batista, who later played multiple seasons with Real Madrid and won multiple titles for Brazil. Ghana would later go all the way to the finals. Egypt, meanwhile, had completely turned things around. After their brutal 7-1 defeat against Argentina, they defeated the USA in the round of 16 and then shocked the Netherlands in the quarterfinals in a comeback 2-1 win. That Dutch squad was absolutely loaded with future legends like Iron Robben, Martin Stekelenburg, Klaas-Jan Huntelaar, Johnny Whittaker, and Rafael van der Vaart, who was the goal scorer of that night, and who were all a part of the 2010 Netherlands squad who got second place at the World Cup that summer. Ultimately, Egypt's run was stopped by Ghana, who defeated them 2-0 in the semifinals, but they did leave with a historic bronze medal, with Allien scoring the only goal in a 1-0 victory versus Paraguay. Allien had actually made it onto the substitute list for the FIFA All-Star team. But as I mentioned earlier, his career never took off due to a horrific car accident he had not long after the tournament. In the final, Ghana met the host and favorites to win the tournament, Argentina, who went on to win the game 3-0. Saviola scored in the game, finishing as the undisputed top scorer of the tournament with 11 goals. The Ghana team notably featured players like Solomon Tari and Michael Essien, who were a part of that legendary 2010 World Cup team. With that victory, Argentina had won their fourth U20 World Cup overall, overtaking Brazil for the most in history, and this marked their third in the last four competitions. Looking at the official FIFA All-Star team, of course, the world-class performances of Saviola, D'Alessandro, and Adriano had easily gotten them onto the All-Star roster. But there was one notable name on that list that stood out so heavily it makes your jaw drop. Our very own goalkeeper, Allien Whittaker, had gotten the starting goalkeeper spot on the FIFA All-Star team, ahead of young legendary Czech Republic goalkeeper Petr Cech. Now, I assume many of you didn't know about this, and I assume some of you guys may have some questions like, what happened to Whittaker after he got into the FIFA All-Star team in 2001 U20 World Cup, and why, he didn't get that big move like Keith Kelly and also became a permanent member of our national team. To understand why, we have to look at the harsh reality of the global goalkeeping market versus the market for outfield players. In football scouting, teams only ever buy one starting keeper, and they almost never waste their highly valuable international player roster spots on unproven teenage goalkeeper. Look at the contrast with Keith Kelly. As a creative midfielder, Kelly was a flashy attacking outfield talent and European scouts are always willing to gamble on raw attacking players developed in their youth academies. But for a teenage goalkeeper like Whittaker, European clubs demanded a completely finished, physically imposing product who already had extensive senior club experience. On top of that, he ran straight into a strict British work permit barrier. During the early 2000s, the most common pipeline for Jamaican football talent was England, but the UK's strict immigration rules required a foreign player's country to be highly ranked by FIFA, and more importantly, the player had to feature in at least 75% of the senior national team competitive matches over the preceding 2 years. Because Whittaker was a teenager sitting behind established senior legends like Donovan Ricketts and Aaron Lawrence, he couldn't get the senior national match minutes required to legally move to the UK. Keith Kelly managed to bypass this by moving to France with PSG, but the European pipeline was much harder to replicate for a young goalkeeper. This created massive structural roster congestion and a complete senior team blockade. Jamaica's senior goalkeeping position was a carry lockdown. Donovan Ricketts was just entering his prime and heading off to the English leagues, while Aaron Lawrence was a certified World Cup hero alongside our starting goalkeeper Warren Barrett. Even though the Jamaican national team called Whittaker into the senior training camps right after 2001 tournament, he was stuck at fourth on the depth chart. While outfield players can easily be subbed on as a winger or late game substitute to gain caps and experience, a young goalkeeper almost never gets on the pitch unless the starter gets injured or a red card. By 2005, 4 years after his Youth World Cup peak, the lucrative international breakthrough simply didn't materialize, and local football in Jamaica didn't offer the lifelong financial security needed to support a family. So, facing reality, Whittaker chose career stability over financial gambling. He enlisted as a soldier in the Jamaican Defense Force. And honestly, while Keith Kelly's career sadly suffered a downward spiral due to those horrific injuries, Whittaker built a stable, had a respectable life. He played for the military team, earned an official national cap later on in 2007, and eventually transitioned into becoming a highly regarded local goalkeeper coach. Whittaker is still heavily active in Jamaican football today, and recently, back in 2024, he sparked an explosive, highly publicized feud with longtime GFF coach and Reggae Boys assistant Marion Gordon. In a jaw-dropping television interview, Whittaker went completely unfiltered, stating plainly that Gordon cannot coach and declaring that he would never forgive Gordon for allegedly instigating a smear campaign against him. Whittaker threw his entire resume right on the table, reminding the country that he won titles as a player, conquered schoolboy football as coach, and proudly played in two separate World Cups, while loudly calling out the JFS toxic old boys network for actively holding Jamaican football development back.
Military. I'm not afraid to call names. So, Marion Gordon said I did an interview with Simon Preston, and somebody showed him that I said that I did not like him and he can't coach. I did say that because I got a letter from Umberland when I was playing for Umberland, and he instigated the letter. So I told him I can't forgive him for that because it's the first time I've been disrespected in football. And if you compare Marion Gordon to Allien Whittaker, there's no comparison. I have won Dr. Cup at Oliver Shield as a player. I have won 3 Dr. Cup as a coach at Learning College, and I've won 2 Oliver Shield as a coach. And I have played in 2 World Cups, and I've played at all levels for the national team. So when he came to Wembley, he said that myself and Holy Wolf was old players and should consider coaching. So it's the reason why when I did that interview, I speak out because I'm no longer a player.
Yeah. But this beef got incredibly petty when Whittaker created the Unity Club to actively give back and provide a platform for local youth. But the JFF affiliated coaches staged a complete boycott, refusing to let their young players participate out of pure spite. To Whittaker, This is the ultimate proof of a completely broken system, a federation where personal grudges and administrative politics matter far more than actually developing the next generation of Jamaican football stars.
Yeah. Yeah, but unfortunately, and I must say unfortunately, when I approached Clarendon College, they said they won't be available. Garfield, which is my first school at a high school that I went to, the coach said that I'm pressuring him, I'm bashing him, so he won't support me. And so it's the reason for not having Garvey Master. Just to clear the here and that. That's the reason why you're not seeing a Garvey Master, you're not seeing a Clarendon College.
Hold on, Bossy, hold on. This is George. Allien, you're
sir, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. Are you saying that?
And this sentiment from him is widely popular among many local coaches, players, and fans who are tired of seeing the system stall. Ultimately, we're going to end things right here for today's episode. Sorry for the long delay in getting this video out to you guys. Moving forward, I'm going to try and get right on to making a potential 2000 Gold Cup overview. It won't entirely be Jamaica specific, and instead, mainly focusing on the tournament overall key moments and not really connected to this specific series timeline. After that, I will also try and work on making the high stakes final rounds of videos for the 2002 World Cup qualifiers simultaneously. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below with your thoughts on Whittaker's words, and I'll see you guys in the next video.